This was going to be an operation and a half. As much as I've been waiting for this major moment to come, I've always dreaded moving day for a massive ant colony into something as intricate and complex as this floating mountain's paludarium you guys have called the Ember Islands, especially when emigrating a massive colony of dangerously aggressive and stinging fire ants. Like our Phoenix Empire here, because so many things could go wrong. They could end up finding a point of escape. They might prove incompatible and not thrive in their new environment. And worst of all, the queen could get fatally injured during the transition, which would then mean the colony would die. It was critical that during this move, I spotted the great fire ant queen moving into the setup, so that I could be sure that the most important member of the colony made it safely into the soils and didn't stumble into the waters, only to be eaten by our water beasts or something. I didn't know how long the moving process would take, but I knew it wasn't going to be quick. Now the waiting game was to begin, a long dragged out process to find the queen ant and make sure she would move out of the City of Ashes and safely into the soils of the floating mountains of the Ember Islands. I wasn't sure when she'd be moving out, which tube she'd be coming out of, or if I'd even be able to spot her again. I crossed my fingers and hoped for the best. But little did I know what was about to happen from here on in was an experience I'd never forget. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon. Welcome to the AC family. Enjoy. This was going to be a mission and a half. Can you imagine having to spot the elusive queen of a massive fire ant colony of hundreds of thousands of fire ants who all want nothing more than to hide her from sight? This was the ultimate Where's Waldo challenge. It's actually been literal months since I'd seen the Queen Ant of the Phoenix Empire, whom we, the AC family, have named the Ember Empress. And that was way back in the colony's infancy, when she and the entire colony moved into their first soil ant farm. After that, we never saw her again, no matter how hard we tried to look for her. But now that the colony was moving into their first grand paludarium, I knew at some point our Royal Ember Empress would have to be moved into the soils of their new home. And this was my one and last chance to actually spot our Royal Fire Ant VIP. Or VIA rather, as she moved through the tubes. Because after this move into these great territories, we'll probably never ever get to see her again. Plus, more importantly for the well-being of the colony, we needed to make sure she made it into one of these floating mountains okay. Because if anything happened to her, we'd pretty much have to say goodbye to the Phoenix Empire. Because the ants can't create a new queen once their main queen dies. The big question, however, was this. Which of the 4 exit points attached to our 4 separate sections of their old home would the queen be emerging from? Would she be emerging from this tube on Mount Juno from Hell's Kitchen? Or this tube on Mount Venus from the Fire Fortress? This tube on Mount Minerva from the Magma Chambers? Or this tube on Mount Vulcan from the Maze of Flames? I only had one pair of eyes and one high-quality HD macro camera versus tons and tons of fire ants pouring in from 4 different locations and a move which could have taken days. Basically, the odds were against me, guys, but I was willing to commit to the search. And what ended up happening during this move was truly one of the hardest things I've ever had to endure and wait for in my life. And I can't wait to show you what incredible things I saw and filmed. So keep on watching until the end. So I'll tell you my guess as to where the queen was hiding and would be emerging from, as well as what all of you guys guessed when I asked you in a community tab post. But before all of that, there was some very important order of business to take care of first. Check this out, guys. You'll love this. The ants were now in phase 1 of the move, which was the construction of nest tunnels and chambers within the soils of the floating mountains. You see, the ants needed ample nest space to accommodate all the brood and their royal queen into the territories. So needless to say, the ants were busy. It was pretty hilarious watching some of the ants carrying debris around, looking desperately for a place to dump the pieces. Check out this ant carrying a huge piece of soil debris as it scaled the cliffside of Mount Venus. Where would she be putting that huge piece? Oh, there she goes, disappearing on the other side of the mountain. Boo! Guess we'll never know. Some clumsier ants fell into the waters below, but I wasn't worried. Fire ants float and instinctively know to swim to each other to form living rafts, after which they would paddle collectively towards the closest landmass. So as you can see, this move into the Ember Islands was a very physically demanding task for the ants. I mean, imagine having to move and construct an entire city over the course of days? Having to dig, race down expansive root bridges, travel relentlessly over rough and unforgiving terrain, swim, and eventually transport the brood, all while being prepared to mobilize at any moment, in case any emergency were to arise. So I decided now was a great time to give the Phoenix Empire a little carbo boost to power these critical activities. I offered the ants some sweet jelly cups of their favorite flavors, as we saw in a past experiment episode. Brown sugar flavor, which I placed into Mount Jupiter, some strawberry flavored jelly, which I placed onto the rock shelf, and some white sugar flavored jelly, which I placed onto Mount Pluto. It wasn't long before the ants came to swarm around the jelly cups to consume all of that delicious sugary food. They gorged themselves on the jelly, filling up their social stomachs so they could go back to the masses and feed the others via trophallaxis, mouth to mouth. And on the way back to the colony, they would be sure to leave a pheromone trail along the way so other ants could come help with grabbing the sweet goods. Man, I just loved watching them trail along the root system. Look at how excited the ants were here to discover the brown sugar cup on Mount Jupiter. It was clear these valuable carbs were exactly what the ants needed right now. Soon ants swarmed all 3 cups, and I was happy to know they were getting the energy they needed. I was absolutely spellbound by the sight. Look at them. Okay, and now to face the big challenge ahead of finding the Queen Ant. Ember Empress, where were you? As mentioned, this was gonna be hard, because I wasn't sure how long I would have to wait for the ants to move the queen in. It could take hours, it could take days, it could take over a week even. Usually, I would just set everything up, go to sleep, and just assume the queen moved in once the formicariums were empty. But in this case, because the ants didn't exactly have a safety zone where I could just leave the tube, since their landing points were suspended high up in the skies, some above water, I absolutely needed to be there to make sure the queen safely made it onto one of these mountains. And in case you were wondering why I couldn't just allow the ants to exit onto the rock shelf below for maximum security, it's because first, I didn't want the queen to have to travel such a far distance out in the open and have to climb the mountains or branches and finally into some soil. Plus, she could still slip and fall into the water, which is partially okay because she can swim, but it might cause extra strain for her if she fell in alone without her cohort to escort her by. Plus, there was still that chance that our water beasts might decide to make a meal out of her, particularly our Beta. I had no choice but to wait and watch, no matter how long it would take. If it took days, I would need to stay awake for days, or at least as long as I could manage, if I were to realistically spot her. I couldn't have friends come over to do surveillance shifts because my city is still under lockdown and my building won't allow non-residents into the premises. I was in this alone, guys. Now on top of all this, as if this wasn't hard enough, as I said before, there was this added challenge that she could be emerging from any of these 4 points. And as embarrassing as it is to say, I only had one 4K macro camera, so I had to choose which of the 4 tubes to fixate my camera lens into in order to film the queen passing by up close. I of course could still survey all 4 tubes myself for a fat queen moving through, but I thought, hey, wouldn't it be a great thing if we could capture her grand entry in 4K so all of us could actually watch the queen up close and personal, moving into these grounds? I thought so. I also had my cell phone on hand to film her moving in case she moved through a tube we didn't fixate my camera to. And though macro wasn't as good, at least we could catch her on video. Alright, so the idea then was to attach my macro camera to the tube I felt the queen was most likely going to pass through. It's an intricate setup that takes around 5 minutes to assemble and involves disconnection of tubes, so once it was set in place, I couldn't really change tubes fast enough if I ever spotted her moving through another tube. Once our lens was set, it would likely have to remain there, as it would be hard to switch tubes afterward. So, let me show you guys now where I believed the queen was hiding, as well as where you guys felt she was most likely living. I must say, great minds think alike. Luckily, I managed to film the 4 sections of the colony before the move, so let's look first at Hell's Kitchen, the colony's AC outworld from AntsCanada.com. This area had the most soil in it, but I felt the queen was most likely not in here, because before the move, I had poured a lot of water into the soils, so I didn't think much brood or the queen was living here. Fire ants like moist nests, but they don't like swampy nests. This here was the magma chambers, the colony's AC hybrid nest mini ant farm, which was indeed filled with a lot of brood. I made sure to scan this footage carefully to look for signs of the queen. But there's one thing you might notice about this part of their territories, and let's see if you guys notice it too. Did you guys see something interesting? All of the brood here are either mature larvae or pupae. It's the older kids of the colony in this section of the nest. This to me meant that the queen was probably not here, because then we'd be seeing piles of eggs and young larvae somewhere. Looking into the maze of flames, the colony's massive AC hybrid nest Camponotus ant farm, which also had tons of brood packed into its chambers. After looking around, though I did spot a pile of medium-sized larvae over there, it didn't look like there were lots of them, nor did I spot any really young larvae or eggs, so this to me meant the queen was probably not here either, unless they were concealing her and her youngest brood in this soil-covered part here. But now looking at the last section of their nest, the Fire Fortress, the colony's AC ant tower, which was currently one huge chamber of brood. It was kinda hard to see, but I thought I did see some young larvae piled around. Eggs could possibly be hidden here too. Could our Ember Empress be living here in the Fire Fortress? It was, after all, the colony's very first legit ant farm, moving out from their birth test tube. Could the queen have remained in this protective sanctuary for all these months? If I had to guess, yes. The Ember Empress was most likely living here in the Fire Fortress, meaning whenever she did decide to move out, she'd be emerging from the tube onto Mount Venus. And lo and behold, after asking all of you in a community tab post, you guys also felt our Ember Empress would be emerging from the Fire Fortress onto Mount Venus. Even members of the great and almighty AC Senate, whom you guys will see standing among you in the comments as they sport various colored badges beside their names. So be sure to greet these dignified members of the Antiverse with a simple bow if you're lucky enough to be in their presence. Felt that the Ember Empress would be emerging from the Fire Fortress as well. Perfect. I set up our camera to the tube leading to Mount Venus and got comfortable because I knew this would be an epic wait. Through the night, I watched the ants traveling up and down the tubes and along the routes. I tried my best to stay awake and drink a ton of coffee as I looked for signs of the queen. And then I saw it. Brood! The ants had finally moved on to their next phase of the emigration. They were now moving in the brood. The shipping of the brood meant that the ants had built the sufficient nest chambers to accommodate them, and signified that at any time the queen would be moving in as well. Look at the ants go! Now all I needed to do was wait for the queen. One hour went by. 2 hours went by. 3 hours. 4 hours. 5 hours. 6 hours. This whole time, I made sure to flick my eyes over to the other 3 tubes as much as I could, just in case our bets were wrong. But inside, I felt she just had to be in the Fire Fortress. 7 hours. 8 hours. 9 hours. Still no queen. At this point, I was super sleepy, but I had to stay awake and keep checking all the tubes. 10 hours. 11 hours. 12 hours. By the 13th hour, the sun was up the next day, and I had pulled the most epic all-nighter of my life. I remember the adrenaline was pumping through my blood the whole time, so the night kind of wafted by in a blur. But I was still watchful as ever the whole time. And you gotta remember, I was filming this all in 4K, so I had to constantly switch out my memory cards, dump the footage onto a hard drive, and rotate my camera batteries as they died out through the night. 14 hours. 15 hours. 16 hours. And 17 hours. Still no queen. By the 18th hour, I had nearly lost all hope. Perhaps she slipped into the territories through one of the other tubes without me catching her. A part of me was about to quit, but I couldn't ignore a voice within me that told me not to give up, to stay up for just that extra 20 minutes or so. I needed and wanted so badly to see our Ember Empress, especially since this would be the final time we'd probably ever get to see her. And I kept imagining to myself how awesome a video it would be if we could film this colossal moment in the history of the Phoenix Empire. Plus, it would be just tragic if the queen were to fall and die. During this move, I summoned up all my strength to keep pushing. I somehow managed to make it to hour 19. And then, as I began to drift away, somewhere by the 20th hour, after being awake for almost 26 hours straight executing this emigration, something happened that I will never ever forget. Take a look at who decided to finally slip through our tube. AC family, let's take a bow as she passes by. Behold, the one and only Great Ember Empress. As she slipped by, I felt such joy. Had I not been looking, I probably would have missed her, as she lay so close to the ground, obscured by masses of ants swarming around hoping to hide her from view. It must have been my sleepy stupor, but the sight brought a tear to my eye as I was suddenly taken back to all the moments we shared, raising this beloved fire ant colony together with so much love from just this pregnant Ember Empress in a test tube. I watched wide-eyed as the Ember Empress emerged from the tube, escorted by a blanket of Phoenix Empire workers, climbing up the side of Mount Venus and plunging crown first into the depths of its soils. After months of looking for her, AC family, we successfully saw her and it was likely going to be the last time we'd ever get to see her again. I was exhausted, my voice hoarse, but in my heart, I was oh so grateful for this. And just like that, the most important member of the Phoenix Empire was in and safe. And so began a new chapter of the Phoenix Empire's story. A new age within these great lands we call the Ember Islands. Life for the Phoenix Empire was going to be a whole new level of epic from here on in. AC family, did you enjoy today's episode? Did you guys guess which tube she'd be emerging from correctly? Be sure to tune in next week to see how well the Phoenix Empire manages living in their new kingdom. Will they adapt well to their new life in the floating mountains of the Ember Islands? Don't miss the continuation of this story. So if you haven't yet, do smash that subscribe button and bell icon now and hit all so you get notified at every upload. Also, don't forget to hit the like button every single time, including now. It would really mean a lot to me, guys. Thank you. AC Inner Colony, I have left a hidden cookie for you here. If you would like to see extended play footage of our Phoenix Empire feasting on their jelly cups. It's actually their first meal in the lands, so do check it out. And guys, did you know that it's anting season in the Northern Hemisphere? And you don't even need to leave your home to start an ant colony. You can catch pregnant queen ants from the safety of your own backyard, balcony, or open window starting this month. Be sure to visit antscanada.com for all your ant keeping and collecting gear shipped to you in a special package from our ant-loving facility in the USA, so you can get the most out of your ant keeping experience. We ship worldwide and also offer full email support if you need our help. We also have a helpful forum and ant colony trading marketplace on the site. Visit antscanada.com today. And now it's time for the AC question of the week. Last week we asked, which floating mountain is your favorite and why? Congratulations to Xander DeWolf, who answered, my favorite is probably Mount Jupiter, because it is very nice and beautiful and will be useful for the ants. Congratulations, Xander! You just won a free Ultimate Ant Keeping Handbook from our shop. In this week's AC question of the week, we ask, why did we need to spot the queen moving into the Ember Islands? Leave your answer in the comment section, and you could also win a free Ultimate Ant Keeping Handbook from our shop. Hope you can subscribe to the channel as we upload every Saturday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video to help us keep making more. It's Ant Love forever.